Higher prices, empty shelves, and orders delayed. This may soon become the reality for American consumers.
Many of the responses, I don't want to travel to the United States. I don't want to give them my business. I don't want to spend my money.
President Trump has said he is recommending a new 50% tariff on all imports from the European Union.
Something massive is breaking in America's retail world quietly but fast. In just the first half of 2025, over 15,000 retail stores have shut down across the U.S., double the number from last year. Walmart closing more branches, Costco canceling bulk orders, Target reducing shelf space, and now Apple has been hit hard. After President Trump warned that iPhones made outside the U.S. could face a 25% import tariff, Apple's stock dropped nearly 4%, wiping out tens of billions in market value overnight. Why is this happening? Because the shopping cart that once held $100 worth of groceries now barely holds $70. This isn't just inflation. This is a system shake, and it starts at the very top. You don't need an economics degree to sense it's something in America's retail lifeline is unraveling. Prices aren't just creeping up, they're jumping. At Costco, a rotisserie chicken, a symbol of affordability for millions, went up $12.50 overnight. No announcement, no special packaging, just higher costs passed straight to the consumer. And that's not an isolated case. It's a pattern now. From cereal to socks, shoppers are finding that familiar products are either missing noticeably more expensive or replaced with cheaper alternatives that don't last. And quietly, Walmart has begun shuttering stores not in the headlines but on the ground. Locations that once anchored entire communities are closing their doors permanently. The company had tried to soften the messaging, calling it optimization, but now even insiders admit it's a response to something deeper. So, what changed? For decades, America's retail giants ran like clockwork. Global supply chains kept shelves full, bulk buying kept prices low, and predictable trade policy meant stable forecasts. But now the foundation is cracking, and the cracks are showing up right at checkout. A $100 grocery run. It barely gets you 65% of what it did just a year ago. That's not just inflation, that's economic displacement. And the ones feeling it most are the middle-income families, the ones who don't qualify for assistance but can no longer stretch their paychecks. The system isn't broken in one big bang, it's slowly buckling under 1,000 small shocks, higher import costs, disrupted supply chains, forced store closures, reduced product variety, and worst of all, zero clarity on when it will stop. This isn't just about one product or one company, it's about the slow grinding loss of predictability in the everyday lives of Americans. And that's the part no one is talking about.
Gas is up, groceries up, insurance up.
So what's driving this retail collapse? Not a natural disaster, not a pandemic, not even a labor strike. It's a trade war reignited, reloaded, and radically expanded. In early 2025, the U.S. government launched one of the most aggressive tariff campaigns in modern economic history. First came a blanket 10% tariff on all imports regardless of origin, regardless of category. Then came targeted blows, a 50% tariff on European goods, and a 25% tariff aimed squarely at smartphones. The message was loud and clear. If it's not made in America, it's going to cost more, much more. And the world didn't stay silent. China, the European Union, and Canada struck back with tariffs of their own, many aimed precisely at the U.S. consumer market and agriculture sector. What followed was chaos across supply chains that had taken decades to build. Goods that once flowed seamlessly into American warehouses were now stuck at ports, rerouted through more expensive paths, or simply canceled altogether. Retailers like Walmart and Costco, known for their tight margins and high-volume models, found themselves caught in the crossfire. Walmart had to scramble to replace suppliers, many of whom could no longer afford to deliver under the new tax burden. Costco, which typically operates on a lean logistics model, started adjusting orders weekly, watching costs tick upward by the day. The result? Shelves that look full but aren't. A reduced selection of goods, fewer brand options, and a steady rise in weekly costs for essentials. Some companies are even replacing premium products with off-brand substitutes, hoping consumers won't notice. But the pain didn't stop with retail giants. Apple, one of the most iconic American brands, suddenly found itself at the center of a political showdown. None of Apple's iPhones are manufactured in the U.S. Production is spread across China, India, and Southeast Asia. But President Trump made it clear, if Apple doesn't bring iPhone production back home, a 25% tariff will be slapped on every device crossing the border. Analysts estimate that if Apple were forced to shift assembly entirely to the US, the price of an iPhone could triple from $1,000 to nearly $3,000. And the market responded in real time. Apple's stock dipped sharply, shedding billions in value as investors began pulling back, unsure of how the company could navigate such a disruptive shift. This wasn't just about one company. This was a signal no brand is too big to get caught in the policy storm. And with each new tariff, the ripple spreads. From warehouses in California to suppliers in Vietnam. From local Walmart aisles to iPhones in everyone's pockets. This is no longer just a trade strategy. It's a pressure test on the entire global retail machine. And right now, that machine is buckling. By June 2025, the warnings had stopped being subtle. The US government openly threatened to impose a 50% tariff on all imports from the European Union, a move that would reshape everything from car prices to consumer electronics. And just days after that announcement, Apple became the next target. In a high-profile statement, President Trump declared that iPhones built overseas would no longer be exempt from the country's trade penalties. If Apple didn't begin shifting its manufacturing back to the United States, it would face a 25% import tax on every device. This wasn't just a headline, it was a warning shot to every global company still operating abroad. The message was clear: reshore your production or pay the price. But by then, the damage was already cascading down the supply chain. Back in May 2025, retailers were already in triage mode. Wholesale costs had spiked. Price tags were being updated weekly. Grocery chains began cutting large bulk orders, slashing inventories, and even reducing staff, especially in logistics departments. Costco halted planned expansions. Walmart quietly walked back supplier contracts, not because demand had dropped, but because the cost of staying stocked was outpacing their ability to remain profitable. Every dollar spent to move goods into the country now came with an added tax, and retailers used to squeezing profits from razor-thin margins had no choice but to pass that burden to consumers. Rewind 1 month earlier to April 2025, and we find the spark. That's when the White House announced a sweeping 10% tariff on all imported goods effective immediately. There was no sector exemption, no grace period, no coordination with suppliers. It hit like a policy grenade. From electronics to groceries, retailers across the board suddenly had to recalculate their entire supply chain structure. Small businesses were the first to feel it, especially those dependent on imported parts or packaging. Larger companies like Target and Home Depot activated emergency contingency plans. But even with resources, they couldn't fully shield themselves, because the system they relied on, stable prices, predictable imports, and global sourcing, was now shifting beneath their feet. Go further back to Q1 of 2025, and the signs were already there, but few wanted to believe it. Shoppers began noticing subtle changes: smaller packaging, fewer options, longer restock times. The usual seasonal sales felt thinner, and weekly grocery runs started costing more without any obvious reason why. It wasn't yet a crisis, but it was a signal. The quiet phase of economic stress had begun. Households adjusted silently, skipping brands, cutting non-essentials, delaying upgrades. Retailers noticed the dip but couldn't explain it because it wasn't a demand problem. It was the calm before the cost storm. By the time the headlines caught up, the system had already started breaking down. This wasn't one bad week or one bad decision. It was a chain of economic tremors, each one shaking the foundation a little more. And by June, the aftershocks became impossible to ignore. Now, halfway through 2025, the storm has stopped pretending to be distant. The smartphone market, once the crown jewel of global tech, is stalling. Growth forecasts are being slashed. New models aren't flying off the shelves. Apple's hands are tied. Relocating its vast manufacturing web stretched across China, India, and Southeast Asia would cost billions and take years. And yet every day they wait, the tariff threat looms closer. For Apple, it's a standoff. Moving production would mean astronomical costs. Staying put means facing relentless tariffs. And for now, they're stuck, just like many other American brands trying to navigate this trade minefield. Meanwhile, on the ground, U.S. consumers are making impossible choices. Middle-class families are trimming their grocery lists, putting off purchases, and switching from quality to quantity. Retail therapy has become retail triage. People aren't shopping less because they want to. They're shopping less because they have to. The ripple effect is real. Every dollar not spent is a dollar not earned by a cashier, not reinvested by a company, not returned to the economy. And as this slowdown spreads, it's pulling on the fabric of the retail system itself. Walmart is bracing cutting losses where it can, shifting routes and quietly pulling out of underperforming regions. Costco isn't faring better. With margins thinning by the week, its once bulletproof bulk model is now bleeding at the edges. Both giants are operating in survival mode, not expanding, not growing, just bracing. And the truth is, none of them know what's coming next. Every boardroom is asking the same question. Will the tariffs be lifted? Will costs stabilize? Or is this the new normal? Because if this is only the halfway point, then what comes next could make today look like the calm before the real collapse. This is no longer just a corporate crisis. It's not about Walmart, not just about Apple, not even just about trade policy. This is a slow-motion fracture at the core of America's consumer economy, a system built on affordable imports, predictable pricing, and mass accessibility. And now, each layer is peeling away. Tariffs go up, prices spike, shoppers pull back, stores shut down, jobs disappear, growth slows. It's a chain reaction, one that didn't start overnight and won't stop on its own. The scary part. All eyes are now locked on one date, July 9th. That's when the next round of negotiations between the U.S. and its top trading partners could either ease the pressure or explode it. Because if those talks fail, the 25% iPhone tariffs become real, the 50% EU import taxes go into effect, and the quiet retail collapse we're witnessing now may escalate into a full-scale economic aftershock. The question is no longer, what's happening? It's how far will it go and who will break next? Subscribe to stay ahead of the next shock. Like this video to help it reach more people, and drop your thoughts below should Apple be forced to move production to the U.S. Will higher tariffs really make America stronger, or just more expensive?